It is 1999, and the Cleveland Browns, after 4 years of inactivity, is back as an expansion team. And of course, with the number 1 overall pick, they decided to get a quarterback. And they chose Tim Couch. He would be the Browns quarterback until he was cut after 2003, and he would eventually quit the NFL at the end of 2007. Meanwhile, the 2nd overall pick was Donovan McNabb by the Eagles. Famously booed when he was drafted, he turned out to be the franchise player the Eagles needed and became one of the better quarterbacks throughout the early and mid-2000s and made the Eagles into one of the better teams in the NFC. Made to the conference championship 5 times, including making it to the Super Bowl in 2004. He was traded to the Redskins in 2010, and then he would later go to the Vikings in 2011 before retiring. A much more successful career than Tim Couch and is a borderline possible Hall of Famer. But what if this flipped? What if instead the Browns drafted McNabb and the Eagles took Tim Couch? That is the topic of this video. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if? An NFL theory. So in this timeline, the Browns do what they did not do. They do not dismiss McNabb, and they take him as the number 1 overall pick. Now, who would the Eagles pick? At first, I could not fully decide what would they do between Tim Couch and Achilles Smith. I tried looking up a lot of info on what they would do if possibly Tim Couch fell to them, but I could not find anything. On the one hand, Achilles Smith would be more like a McNabb, so maybe they would take him instead? But I just couldn't think of any information, and I think for the betterment of the theory, it would be better if Tim Couch and McNabb swap. So I decided, screw it, Eagles are taking Tim Couch. So now, with this out of the way, let's get into the seasons. In 1999, despite being bad teams and needed players on their team, they start off as backups in 1999. So first, for the Browns, McNabb would finally get his first start in week 3, and sadly, it's not going to go well for the Browns because McNabb had an awful rookie year. Even worse than Tim Couch, to put that into perspective. The Browns in 1999 won just 2 games. The first one was at the Saints, which they won on a last-second Hail Mary touchdown. I don't think McNabb would have the accuracy or the arm strength to make that throw, so they don't win that. Their next win would be at the Steelers, which Couch would march him downfield for the game-winning field goal. I don't think McNabb would be able to do that, so they don't win it. And since I don't think he would win any of the other games that they lost, the 1999 Browns would go 0-16 before the Lions did it 9 years later. So wow, talk about a nice start to your return to the NFL. Jeez, going 0-16. Meanwhile, for the Eagles, Tim Couch would not actually make his first start till about week 11 into the season. Looking at his stats in the games that McNabb played and started, his stats would not have made any difference at all for the Eagles. So in the end, they would finish 5-11 still. So in the updated 1999 standings, other than the Steelers and Saints getting an extra win, nothing else changes. Now into 2000, as McNabb played much better in 2000, the Browns finally got their first win since coming back after almost 5 years. And near the middle point of the season, they were around 500 and looking pretty solid. But then the team started to regress a bit, and the team ended up finishing 5-11. But hey, 5-11 after going 0-16, that's not bad improvement. Meanwhile, for the Tim Couch-led Eagles, they also would get off to a really good around 500 start, as their defense would play really good and he would play solid, but then he would suffer his season-ending injury, and the Eagles fell apart offensively. But their defense played good enough, and the Eagles improved to 9-7. And in the updated 2000 standings, nothing changes on the AFC side. The NFC side changes as the Buccaneers get the 4th seed, the Rams move up to the 5th seed, and the Packers have the tiebreaker over the Eagles since they beat them, so now they get the 6th seed as the Eagles instead miss the playoffs. But in the end, nothing changes. Going into 2001, the Browns made a lot more momentum now as their defense played much better, and McNabb took another step forward as the Browns improved to 11-5, their first win in season since 1994. Meanwhile, for the Eagles, Tim Couch had his best season in his career, although still nowhere near as good as McNabb was with the Eagles. But the Eagles still improved thanks to their second best defense as they got to 10-6. In the updated 2001 standings, in the AFC side, the Dolphins now win the AFC East as they get to the 2nd seed. The Browns now make the playoffs as the 4th seed, and the Patriots fall to the 6th seed. So for the Eagles starting off hosting the Buccaneers, this game they won defensively. So even though Tim Couch would not play as good, I think the Eagles still would win this. Then the next day would be a huge game as the Ravens visit the Browns. How about this? The Browns' first ever playoff game coming back into the league was not only against the defending champs, but against the former Browns in the Ravens. That would be crazy. It would be a defensive struggle, but with McNabb being the better quarterback, and he played good that week in real life 2001 wildcard, the Browns would beat the Ravens and get their first win back. Then in the divisional round, the Eagles still visit the Bears, and the same thing, just like with the Buccaneers, I think the Eagles still would win this as this was mostly thanks to their defense. And then the Browns visit the number 1 seed Steelers, as this game would be defensive as hell as well, but they have McNabb, and McNabb would drive them downfield and would get them in position for the game-winning field goal, which they would make, and the Browns, just like that, their first time back in the playoffs, beat not only the defending champ and former team in the Ravens, they beat their arch-rival Steelers, and they were in the AFC Championship. The AFC Championship is now the Browns at the Dolphins. This time, unfortunately for the Browns, I think the Dolphins would have them stopped, as once again it was another defensive slugfest, but seeing how McNabb did not play as good against the Rams in real life, I don't think he would be enough for the Browns to get this. Meanwhile, the Eagles visit the Rams still, but this time the Rams would win, but it wouldn't be making a comeback, as the Rams would dominate the entire game as Tim Couch just was not as good as McNabb. So, the Super Bowl is now the Dolphins and the Rams, and this time the Rams would get it easily as they destroyed the Dolphins earlier in the year. In just 3 years, the Browns and Eagles have turned around and they're now one of the better teams in their respective conference. So, in 2002, with Super Bowl aspirations, the McNabb-led Browns had a really strong season. But 6 weeks remaining into the season, McNabb suffered an injury that would knock him out for the remainder of the regular season. In came his backup, Kelly Helcom, and then something incredible happened. Helcom played really, really good on that Browns offense. Even better than McNabb. So not only in this situation do the Browns do okay, they do better than they do with McNabb, leading to a quarterback controversy, as now the Browns have a strong offense with their defense, and they rose to the top of the AFC with a 13-3 record. Meanwhile, for the Tim Couch-led Eagles, they play really strong throughout the season until 2 weeks left in the season, as Couch suffered a season-ending injury, leading his backup to lead the way, but the Eagles still finished 12-4. So in the updated 2002 standings, the Browns have the number 1 seed as the Raiders fall to number 2, Titans fall to number 3, and the Broncos get in as the 6th seed. In the NFC, nothing changes. And wow, just look at that. The Eagles and Browns, 3 years later, one of the worst teams in the league, now the number 1 seed in their conference. Incredible how much a difference just one draft change did. But we now look at the divisional matchup with the Falcons visiting the Eagles, and his backup, Tim Couch's backup would not play good, but it wouldn't matter as that game was won solely thanks to the Eagles' defense as they still move on to the conference championship. The next day, though, the Jets would visit the Browns, and there would be a quarterback controversy as McNabb would be healthy now to come back for this. But, as I mentioned, Kelly Helcom has lit up this offense even better than McNabb did. So there's actually a quarterback controversy. After thinking about it for the several weeks they had, the Browns decide they're going to stick with Helcom and hope this offensive juggernaut continues. And it would, as they would beat the Jets. So then, the conference championships, the Buccaneers would still beat the Eagles even more than they did without McNabb. And then the Raiders would visit the Browns in an offensive shootout. That would be crazy. But the Browns, having the better defense and being at home, I think they can get it. And with that, the Browns are in the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 37 is now the Browns and Buccaneers. How about that? The Browns, after being gone for so many years, 0-16 just 3 years earlier, they're in the Super Bowl and look like they can do it. But would they? That's not as certain, as they're going up against the #1 defense in 2002, a team that shredded an already really good offense in the Raiders, and the Buccaneers did beat the Browns earlier that year. So honestly, I still think the Buccaneers would probably get this. In the 2002 offseason, the Browns had a massive problem. Now they have two quarterbacks that have established themselves as starters, Donovan McNabb and Kelly Helcom, and neither of them are going to accept to not be the starter for the Browns. The Browns are going to have to choose between one of them. In a tight, hard-fought decision, the Browns finally decided that McNabb is the franchise quarterback for the last few years. They're going to stick with him. But Helcom was still under contract, so they decided to make use of him. They traded him to the Cardinals, thinking he would be the franchise quarterback the Cardinals need to begin their rebuild. In 2003, after all the hype and hoping they make it back to the Super Bowl, Donovan McNabb became the starter once again, and he struggled really badly. He had his worst season since his rookie year, and the Browns, of course, fell apart as well, as their defense was nowhere near the same as it once was, and the Browns bottomed all the way out to 5-11. Oh my God, what a terrible season they had. Meanwhile, for the Eagles, once again, they would go 12-4 with a really strong defense. Remember, they did this with McNabb's bad stats. Even if Tim Couch played this bad, they still would get the 12-4 record. Meanwhile, for the Cardinals, oh God, Helcom would be a major disappointment as he would throw more interceptions and touchdowns. But despite all this, he still would have played better statistically than all the quarterbacks they used in 2003. So the Cardinals actually improved to 7-9. Crazy as that sound, that actually would happen. In the updated 2003 standings, nothing changes at all in terms of seedings. But then we got to get to our divisional matchup as the Packers visit the Eagles. This is the infamous 4th and 26 game where the Eagles were down by a field goal with facing a 4th and 26, and Donovan McNabb actually converted it, got the Eagles downfield, got the game-tying field goal, and then would win in overtime. Now, with Tim Couch facing this situation, I don't think the Eagles would convert that 4th and 26, and therefore the Packers would win it. And with that, the Super Bowl outcome doesn't change. So wow, 2 quarterback changes changed a lot in this theory. First, you got to talk about the Cardinals. Now they're nowhere near as bad now based upon their 2003 record, so now they're very likely not going to be in position to get Larry Fitzgerald, and that is going to really sting for them. But the main focus is the Browns and Eagles. The fact that swapping these two teams, these two players, and they both had success still, the Browns, despite going 0-16 in 1999, they would make the playoffs twice. They would have a 4-2 record in them, make it to the Super Bowl as well. That is a much better result than in real life. And the Eagles, they're not as good as they were before. They don't make it to they make one less NFC Championship appearance, and they make the playoffs one less time. But they still overall had a massive turnaround. Now going into 2004, oh boy, that would be interesting. Since Tim Couch did not play after that, I have no idea how he would do with the Eagles, especially since the Eagles had an incredible 2004 season, and they're not going to have McNabb too, and more importantly, they're not going to likely have T.O., since he never would get to hang out with McNabb. If McNabb does make the Pro Bowl, he would be on the AFC side, so he and him, both of them would never hook up, which means McNabb would not have T.O. in 2004 with the Browns, so he probably wouldn't have as incredible season as he did in 2004, and if he doesn't, that could possibly open up the possibility that he would be gone with the Browns after 2004. So yeah, that incredible seasons they had just recently could be all for nothing if I continue this theory in the future. But hey, it's just a theory, an NFL theory. Thanks for watching. As I've tried to get this out as quickly as possible, this is going to probably be the last theory I'm going to do for a while, unless I get this one really short one coming up very soon done. So we'll see about that, as I got to get to work on MTWS very soon. But I hope y'all enjoyed, and the next one will be very short, one game in particular. So see you guys then.